Hey there everybody, Decaff here from YSFlightHeadquarters.com and YSUpload.com, and today I want to show you how to make a really nice fuselage. So we want to make a fuselage for YSFlight that has a couple of features. Number one, it captures all the parts of our design, meaning we have to have enough control over it to be able to capture any necking or Coke bottle effects or different shape changes that we might need. But we also would like a lot of vertices. Now, those two don't go hand in hand together very well, because if we have a lot of vertices, it means a lot of editing time in order to account for slightly different changes, such as if I was trying to adjust things around the canopy here. So how can we do this? Well, the easiest thing to do is to use a Subsurf Modifier, and what it does is it inserts a lot of extra vertices for us, but we can control everything from a few stations. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to need your 3-view drawings of whatever aircraft you're using. In this case, I'm using a 1950s French bomber, the Voiture, I think it's called. Can't really pronounce the French there, but it's a very interesting shape because it's got everything in it that we would maybe see. We have the Coke bottling, we have the canopy adjustment there, we also have a nice nose there, and there's another version as well that has a much sharper nose for, I think, a little bit higher speed flying. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in our cylinder to start things off, and we're not going 32 vertices. We're maybe going to do 12. That would be my recommended upper limit. And we're not going to cap the ends, we're just going to leave them open. So here we have our model, but you know, this is in textured view mode, and we need to stay in textured view mode because otherwise we do not see the drawings behind it. So what we can do is, per Shutter's tutorial, go over here into the object mode submenu and click on wireframe. Now this object right here is in wireframe while we are still in the textured draw type or textured view mode. So that is a really nice, easy way to work with this. And now we need to rotate this into the correct orientation, and I highly recommend you do all these rotations and scalings and everything like that completely within edit mode. That way your actual object in the rotations and the scaling categories here aren't affected. It's completely normal, nothing weird is going on there. So now we're just going to go ahead and place this into position, and we're going to scale it approximately to the right place. You know, you're never going to get it 100%, but you can get it pretty close. One thing to note though is that we need to go into the canopy here. We can't end right where the canopy intersects with the fuselage because of the fact that all of these guys are overlapping slightly. So if we go and look at this guy here and look at sort of the upper fuselage section here, you see that there's an intersection there. And if we look at the side view, I've chopped out a lot, but you can still see that it needs to go well below into the fuselage a bit, and that means that the fuselage also needs to go up into the sort of ridge up there. So we're going to just approximate it here. We're not going to go too in depth. A few extrudes, and what I like to do with the extrudes is put them on points that you see in the drawings. For example, these vertical lines are a good place to put them because that's naturally where you might have a color change in your mesh, and therefore you wouldn't have to create a cut to make your paint scheme work. So little things like that you want to look for because they can save you a lot of time later on and keep your models a little bit more elegant and a little bit simpler. And we're not going to go super in depth here because our Subsurf Modifier is going to take care of all of these changes that we're going to need to put in, all the details that we're going to need to add. So we can keep things pretty simple. Even if we can't really see behind the engine here, we can still get a pretty good idea about what's going on. And as long as we continue to sort of go where there's major arc changes or vertical lines, we're going to get a pretty good mesh to work with. So something like there. Scale this down. And one of the reasons why I want to leave the mesh open is because we can close it at any time, but it is kind of annoying to go in and unopen it, if you will. So we're going to go in here and we'll just finish it off, and we're not going to close it on the very end here just because that's a really weird point. We're just going to leave it open there. And that's our fuselage shape from the side view. We go into the front, and we can just apply a very, very quick scale in the Y direction to snug everything in, and perhaps a small scale in the Z direction as well, just to help focus things. And from the top view now, we can sort of expand these guys just a wee bit in the Y direction. And this is why working with only a few vertices and a few stations really helps, because you don't have a huge number of things that you have to deal with. And also when we're looking at it like this, we can see that we have to deal with the necking here. So what I'm going to do is put in a loop cut right about there and right about there, and I'm just going to scale them both in the Y direction enough to approximate our Coke bottle effect there. So let's take a look at this in the solid view mode, and that looks about what we want it to. It has the general shape. It's still very, very rough, but that's okay. We could set that to smooth at any point in time that we want, but I like to leave it as solid so that we can actually see all the faces. Now it is time to add the Subsurf modifier. If you've never done a shrink wrap before or used the mirror modifier, the Subsurf modifier is in the same spot. Right down here in the modifiers tab in the edit sub window here of the button window, you click add modifier and you go all the way up to Subsurf. And right away you notice that it smoothed things out a little bit. And you can go with a level 1 or a level 2. I wouldn't go any more than that. See, right here we can see that the level 1 sort of puts in a midpoint or a midpoint cut at each station, and a level 2 puts in like a triple cut in between each station. So there's a lot more vertices going on here. And if we bring our fuselage into wireframe, you can see them. You can see them before you apply the modifier. Now in this view here, you can see that our model shrank a little bit. With the Subsurf modifier, it's sort of doing a best fit spline curve inside of all of these points. So naturally we're going to have to edit them in order to properly realign everything. And one thing that you can do is put it into the solid view mode on these side views and get a little bit better view, because if you're in the wireframe mode, it can be kind of hard to distinguish where is my vertices that I'm selecting and where is the mesh that I'm working on. So that is that, and we just got to scale these back into position nice and easy. So one thing that you're going to want to do is leave this as just a modifier being applied. You don't want to accept this modifier too soon. If you do that, you can't get back to this editing mode. You're only going to be able to really deal with the millions of vertices that we see in the wireframe mode, and that's just not a lot of fun. So keeping it with the modifier added right there, just leaving it there, you're going to have a much easier time working with this. So once you're done and everything is the way you want it to, such as you added in the canopy and you made sure the intersection there was all set, then and only then you can go ahead and hit apply to finalize it. And as you can see, there is all the points. Now if you accidentally hit apply, it's not the end of the world. You can hit undo and it'll undo that application, but you will have to then reapply the modifier. And there we go. So that is how you can use the Subsurf Modifier to save a lot of time in your aircraft modeling. If you got any questions about using this, go ahead and throw me a comment down below or send me a private message on YSFlightHeadquarters.com. As always, I'm always happy to answer any questions you have. Until next time, I hope this saves you a lot of time and makes your modding very, very easy. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you want to find some cool add-ons for YSFlight, head on over to YSUpload.com, the official add-on hosting site for YSHeadquarters.com.